everybody. Happy Monday after Thanksgiving. Hope everybody enjoyed their time with the family. Obviously, over the weekend, we went up to Tampa to take care of some stuff between South Florida Bulls and the Rice Owls. We're glad to be back on the show tonight. Well, we're going to do something very lighthearted tonight. There will be no non-sports topic tonight. Plenty of baseball to go out there. We're going to talk about the Savannah baseball's latest hit. Savannah Bananas, excuse me. Savannah Bananas baseball is latest hit. There's a tongue teaser there, Bear. Glad to have the group on tonight. Eric Katz, glad to have you back on. Eric?
Thanks, Scott. Good to be here.
You're welcome. And Candy?
Yeah.
Well, always good to talk baseball with you fine gentlemen.
And George Eichhorn's back.
Hi, how are you? Happy belated Thanksgiving, everyone.
And last but not least, my battery mate, Barry Foote. Barry and I go back a long ways. Glad to have Barry on again.
Well, thanks. Glad to be here.
We have a busy agenda tonight, so we're going to go back to Motown, and we'll start there. Longtime Detroit sports writer and a guy that George and I know all too well. And radio host Pat Caputo believes that Kevin McGonigal should have been elevated to the major leagues immediately during the September run because Detroit needed to add a bat in the lineup and is one of the few can't-miss prospects in the organization. We'll start off with a guy that lives in Motown. George, what are your thoughts about Pat's assessment?
Well, first of all, Scott, I want to tell you, Pat is very knowledgeable. I respect his knowledge. He is there's only a handful of guys, I think, in Detroit that know the minor leagues as well as he does for the Tigers system. The whole question about bringing him up that early was debated back and forth on different shows. I'm not in that camp. I don't think that the pressure on that kid would have been enormous. I'm not quite sure how he would have handled it. Nobody knows for sure. And I think that the Tigers have their plan, and then when they want to bring him up and showcase him, I think they're going to give him a chance sometime during 2026, but I'm not sure when. Right. Of course, he'll go to spring training with them. But, Scott, to answer your question, no, I don't think that's the right thing to do. I may be old school in that regard, but I don't think Kevin should have been brought up there during the September pennant push. That's just my feeling.
That's fine. Eric?
It's a bad idea to bring a young kid up. I'm in agreement with George because, you're putting them in a pressure cooker situation where Detroit's pushing for a pennant, and it's become time. And we've seen this happen before around the league where it's shown that teams who are trying to win now, it puts the prospects under a lot more pressure to produce, unlike teams that are not relevant in the moment or don't have another winning window where the prospect can try and find their way. I mean, that's why, with the Yankees, they have a hard time sometimes developing prospects because you got to win and develop, which is not easy to do. I think the Tigers did the right thing by not bringing him up and not putting him in that situation. And who knows, maybe he'll be on the opening day roster this year. I know he'll at least have a shot in spring training to make it, so we'll see what happens.
Candy?
If you were thinking about doing it in September, do it earlier when Detroit was going through that slump and falling as it was. Bring him up, see how he is. If he performed well, then you could keep him up there. But putting that much pressure when they were trying to get to the pennant was just too hard. And if he would have done well, then yes, everybody would have been celebrated. But if he didn't do well, that could have damaged him for the future as well and his confidence.
Barry, you obviously work with player development. Nobody knows it better than you. That's why I waited for you last on this one. What are your thoughts about this?
I think if you're dependent on a young kid like that, I don't even know what level did he play at this year?
Double A.
Double A.
Yeah.
That's if you're dependent on them in a pennant race, you've got a very much higher chance of hurting him than you do of him helping you. So no, I don't like that. I think that I'm kind of with Candy. If you really think he's get ready to go, get him up there before the pressure's completely on him. I mean, they had enough pressure on them themselves before they brought that kid in there. That kid would have been in a real pressure cooker the way they played the last, 2 months of the season.
Yeah, no question about it. Here's the thing. Don Mattingly once told me that once you get to the major leagues, obviously, even you talk about the AAA, the Major League Baseball, transition, Barry. Nobody knows. It's one thing to play AAA pitching, but you get to the big league, it's a different animal now. These guys just don't always handle it that well when they make it to the big leagues. So it's such a big adjustment. So I'm going to go ahead and rely on Don Mattingly's expertise and yours, Barry. That I don't think it would have been the right move to put McGonigal in there. I understand Pat, but I don't think Pat really got this one right. I really don't. I disagree with him 100%. We'll stay in the Tigers organization. Back in the Florida State League, their manager of the year was Rene Rivera of the Lakeland Flying Tigers. I believe the Tigers won the Florida State League title, and they won both halves of the final. So again, Barry, you're familiar with the Florida State League. Rene Rivera is another interesting name for people to watch, especially in the Tiger system. What do you know about this guy, or if nothing else? Let's talk about how important it is to win both halves in the Florida State League. That this guy could be another guy in their system to watch out for.
Well, he's already got too much experience to become a big league manager. They like to take these guys with no background, no experience, and elevate them to the major league job. But yeah, it's if you'll recall, the year I managed in the Florida State League, we won one half, and then we played well in the playoffs, ended up winning the league. But it's a good league. I think all these guys should manage at A, AA, and AAA. I think you learn a lot about the game. It's different than what you do as a player. So yeah, it's a good background for him to have, and winning is always a good thing. You can develop and you can win at the same time.
Well, obviously you did. So you and I were together when Fort Lauderdale Yankees won the Florida State League champion. You went on to win another one championship, I believe. What was it with the Myrtle Beach Blue Jays? Is that correct, if I remember right?
Yes, well, our best year, really, we didn't win the playoffs, but in the Eastern League, we won that league by 6 games in the regular season, but we ended up, all our players were gone by the playoff time. But yeah, it's minor leagues is a great learning experience for a manager, and a guy that's got big league background as a player. A lot of times those guys don't think they need to go manage in the minor leagues, but I think your most successful managers have managed in the minor leagues.
Great points. All right, George, I thought about Rivera. Yeah, Jeremy Ballrick in the chat room. Terry and Arnold's having season-ending shoulder surgery, so another setback for the Detroit Lions. Thanks, Jeremy, for that Detroit update. Go ahead, George.
Okay. Yeah, I tell you what, I'm very happy for him. I think that, and you've spoken about it, Barry, already, but that is a really sound league, the Florida State League, and with teams in Clearwater and Daytona, Detroit, Lakeland and St. Lucie and other cities. But I really think that there's no question about it. And you're 100% right. Barry, I knew you would be, because the levels that they can manage at makes them much more ready to someday hopefully get the call to the big leagues. There's a lot of managers, like you said, that are ex-players and just retired a year or two and they anoint them as managers. But I like the system where you go in the minors and you do have time to develop yourself, develop your skills as a manager, because you got a whole lot of things to worry about, man. Pitching and pitch counts and young guys that never reach this level or that level. There's so much on the plate for a manager. So I'm happy for him. And yeah, I think he's a candidate for someday being a manager, or at least getting to the coaching staff in the organization. Yeah.
Eric?
Well, managing in the minors teaches you a lot, not just about player development, but also managing people, because it's one thing why I somewhat have a problem with when the San Francisco Giants hired the University of Tennessee's head coach, and the reason that is there's a world of difference between kids and professional baseball players. In college, you're basically holding their money, meaning you could take that away from them if you deem that necessary. It happens all the time in college sports where someone will do something against the rules and boom, they're gone. At the major league level, you can't do that. Your power is significantly less. As a matter of fact, it's probably even lesser now, with front offices kind of having most of the control over what happens, over strategy and what happens on the field. But, I don't think managers nowadays are really learning the people aspect of it. They're kind of more honed in on the wins and the losses and the pitching changes, but you gotta know how to reason with them and know how to get them motivated enough to play. It's really interesting during the season. on what you can see if a team is really together or not. All you have to do is watch the dugout between plays and between at bats. You'll know what's really happening inside the locker room just by watching the dugout. I mean, a good example of someone who spent time in the minors is Pat Murphy, and he spent a lot of time in the minors, even right after he was the head coach at both the University of Arizona and the University of Notre Dame, and he's had a lot of success in Milwaukee, and the players love him. I can't think of a more united clubhouse than Milwaukee's, and that's partially probably because Pat Murphy did go the minor league route.
Candy.
So Rene is a Puerto Rican former professional baseball catcher. He played in the Major League Baseball for the Seattle Mariners, Minnesota Twins, San Diego Padres, Tampa Bay Rays, New York Mets, Chicago Cubs, Los Angeles Angels, Atlanta Braves, Cleveland Indians, and Washington Nationals. And the reason why I bring up all of those teams he played for was that he got the experience to play under so many different managers because he played so many different teams. So he has that kind of experience behind him. Now, on February 21st of 2023, he was named manager of the Frederick Keys in the MLB Draft League. In January of 24, he was hired as the bench coach for the Lakeland Flying Tigers, and then he was promoted after just a year to serve as manager of the Lakeland prior to the 2025 season. And then to win manager of the year, that speaks volumes about him and his abilities to coach, that he got promoted so quickly and then he won that award this year already in his first year in a league that is a good league. I mean, the Florida State League is a really good league. So kudos to him for that.
Well, think about it. Andrew Graham's the guy I got to know over in Daytona, and he sat under Andrew Graham. I'm sure you probably heard of him, right, Barry? Andrew Graham. If you haven't, this guy here is at Double-A, and now you have Rene in Class A. So Tigers have a couple of good managers in that system, and they really, really do. And Andrew Graham, I think he was on the Australian World Baseball Classic. Nevertheless, he's a guy to watch out for as well. All right, well, Eric, you did a good job segueing here, so we'll just talk about a little college baseball. LSU is set to extend baseball coach Jay Johnson through the 2032 season. The deal will pay coach $3 million a year and make him the highest paid college baseball coach. And with that said, you talk about Tony Vitello, who was hired by the San Francisco Giants. He was then the Tennessee Volunteers coach. Well, you know what, Eric, you can start with it. Then we'll have Barry follow you. Great college developments, especially when you think of Tennessee's keeping their guy. And the reality is the Giants went down to the college to snap up theirs. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, he's won the College World Series 2 times in 4 years, which that's really hard. That's really hard to do. We're talking you got to be coaching at like just an accelerated level, probably somewhere along the lines of legendary Arizona State head baseball coach Bobby Winkles. But I think LSU is doing this in part. I think it's a lot of it's reactionary because they don't want to lose this guy to the bigs. They're doing it They're doing it because of what happened to Tony Vitello. Because right. Vitello had a lot of success at the University of Tennessee, no doubt, and LSU's doing this and making him the highest paid baseball coach in college baseball is because they don't want to lose him to the bigs. Now that Buster Posey has done, if Vitello has success in San Francisco, you could bet that you will see more college coaches coming over to manage a Major League Baseball team. I guarantee you, LSU is doing this for him not to be swayed by going to the bigs, and they want to protect that investment. Two college worlds, 2 national championships in 4 years at LSU, and plus a whole plethora of players developed like Paul Skeens, for example. Right. You got to keep that guy in house and basically give him a blank checkbook and the front yard for him to stay.
Barry?
Well, obviously, he's probably making more money than the guy that went to the Giants, I would imagine. And I think it's smarter of the school to keep him. The school can afford to pay it. Obviously, they like paying their coaches big numbers, just like they just gave Kiffin the big deal. So No, I think it's good. I'm going to be really, really interested to see how the coach from Tennessee does at the major league level. It's a whole different game there, dealing with people that are making a whole lot more money than you are, and seeing how you deal with it. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, can LSU afford to pay coaches? They only gave Lane Kiffin $91 million. I think they could afford another $3 million. All right,
There you
George.
go.
Well, yeah, that's a lot of money. Johnson is doing good for himself. I mean, I think he's got a contract of about 1.8 million a year. And you know, you talk about his achievements, and you know, they were highlighted by Eric, you know, the 2 College World Series titles and 4 appearances in the CWS. Just an incredible record he's laid out and performed admirably, you know, and he was a former player. He's only 48, so he's got a whole hell of a lot future ahead of him. And I'm sure that LSU would do their best to try to keep him around because, like I said, they are doing great with him. And when he took over, that team just started winning. So two College World Series is nothing to sneeze at. Let me tell you, he's a great coach, and hats off to him.
Yeah, Kennedy, and of course, like Eric said, reactionary. What happened because when Tony Vitello, that's a great word, Eric, by the way. That this is a knee-jerk reactionary, however you want to slice it out. LSU made a move. They have a lot of money, but Tony Vitello, I'm like you, Barry. I'd be curious to see how he does with the Giants. That's for sure. Go ahead, Candy.
Yeah.
So Jay actually has his degree. I don't know if any of you knew that. He completed his bachelor's degree in physical education, where he was also an assistant coach. And so there's a very different level of play at the college level and then at the Major League Baseball level. And there's a different type of respect, I think, for coaches when you're younger and you're trying to get into the big leagues. So I think it's easier sometimes. It's more comfortable. You're like Barry said, you're not coaching guys that are making how many more millions than you are, some of these baseball players in the major leagues. And it's comfortable. And let's face it, now that there's NIL, you know, he's going to being at a school such as LSU that would have the deep pocketbooks that they have, he'd be able to recruit good players as well to continue his success. His overall record is 507 and 248. In NCAA tournaments, he's 43 and 16 as a head coach. Good record. He should get paid. And, you know, if he wants to move on, that's great. But if he's happy where he's at, money's not everything. I mean, and like we said, he's making good money as it is. So, and now that Lane kind of laid the foundation, maybe there's a chance he's going to get even more down the road.
Yeah, he's got to be salivating at that hire when you think about it. Think about it, Barry. You already got $3 million, right? Okay, now you bring in Lane Kiffin, who can only do nothing but bolster the recruiting for the LSU sports program. And I know once football, we all know, let's not get ourselves. You're doing well with football, the other sports are going to benefit because all of a sudden it's a different animal altogether. All right, well, obviously one change you're going to see in Major League Baseball is the ABS challenge system will be viewed in the 2026 season. Well, no better person to start off with you, Barry. What are your thoughts about that change for next season?
Well, obviously they're going to end up using that system full time down the road. It's just, you know, they're testing it out. I went to a minor league game for the first time since they were doing that. And the first time they did, I said, "What's going on here?" And somebody had to explain to me that you had the ability to challenge balls and strikes. Look, it's part of the technology play in the sport. You can't. There's so much of baseball is changing that you either go along with the change or you're going to sit around being upset. And I'm fine with the change. I think it's good to. I mean, if you saw some of those games that were umpired this year, wow, there was some bad umpiring going on with balls and strikes.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that too later on, but I'm glad you brought it up. Sorry to interrupt you there.
All right.
No, sorry about that. Yeah, we'll be talking more about some of the incidents that you're reflecting on for sure as the
Yeah.
offseason goes on, Barry. But yeah, you were right. I'm sorry if I cut you off. Sorry about
No,
that.
you didn't cut me off.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, George, go ahead.
Yeah, it's going to be very limited, though. I mean, in the big leagues this season, which I think is a wise thing to do. Take baby steps before you get into it full time. I just hope that the umpires that we have now get better, and it helps them in their own development and in calling balls and strikes down the road. I don't know if some of the older guys are going to want to adapt to it. So I think you could see a lot of retirements from some of the veteran umpires. I have no knowledge on that situation, but it wouldn't surprise me. And they've lost a lot of guys in the last 4 or 5 years, as you know, Barry. A lot of the names that we knew for such a long time have hung it up. But the game has to get better. I mean, you can't have embarrassing calls. So let's go for it. Let's give it a try and see how it develops.
Okay, Eric.
I think, well, it's probably one of the only things Rob Manfred has ever handled well during his time as the commissioner of baseball. But I think limiting it is good. I don't think I wouldn't want them to challenge I wouldn't want them to challenge every single strike or ball call, because then it would just absolutely kill the product. But I think it's necessary. You got the technology to do it. Football has been doing it for years with the challenge system, where you get 2 challenges on a play, and if you win it, you retain it. Baseball has kind of adopted that, and in some ways. But yeah, I think the ball and the strike call is necessary. We've got the technology to do it, and nobody wants to see the product ruined because of bad umpiring. I was at a Brewers game on Labor Day when the home plate umpire missed a clear half swing by Bryce Harper, and he ultimately got the walk, and Pat Murphy got ejected. But it's, I think it's necessary. Again, you don't want any incident happening, because we've seen it happen too many times where we've run into some very ugly problems that are easily preventable by putting the strike and ball system in place, where they at least have a chance to challenge it. If they don't win it and they run out of them and the call ends up being bad, so be it. But at least they've got a chance rather than none at all.
Candy.
The NFL has the red flag that they can throw so many challenges. It's good that baseball is limiting it to only so many challenges as well. I get it. I mean, nobody's perfect. So, but we welcome it. As we have technology, we need to start using it for the betterment of the sport to get the calls right.
Yeah, and that's as I was telling Mary and the rest of everybody. We'll eventually be talking about some of the umpires that were looked upon as individuals that made mistakes. That'll be later in the offseason as well.
Yep.
Well, you want to talk about the ultimate competitor? Okay, here Justin Verlander will qualify as one of those. Toward late September, he says mother with the F word expletive, and he ended up, when he exited his final game of 2025, which was a ground ball that led to a run surrendering error, which forced Bob Melvin to take him out of the game. Barry, let's talk about Justin Verlander per se. This guy is the ultimate competitor if I ever saw one. I certainly understand the frustration by utilizing the language he did. But what are your thoughts about Justin Verlander, Barry, and the competitor nature that this guy had? You don't want to see you leave because of a ground ball, obviously due to an error. That's unfortunate.
Well, it is. But this is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a competitor. He's got, he's still got good stuff. I think he had a lot of tough losses this year, but he's still got good stuff. It'll be interesting to see him come back, see if he, can, at least end on a good note for his career. But yeah, you like competitors. Scherzer's that way. Those guys don't want to come out of the game, and we don't have that many of those anymore. Most of them are looking in the dugout. You want to come out here and get me. So, and
Right.
it's good to see, the Roger Clemens type mentality that it takes to be a Hall of Fame type pitcher. That's what Verlander shows you.
George?
Well, yeah, I never would question his desire, his stamina, and his fierce competitive nature. Justin is certainly a Hall of Famer, like you said, Barry, first ballot. He's an incredible individual. He works hard at what he wants to achieve in his baseball career. I quite frankly, I wish he would have never left town, but that didn't work out, and that very rarely does work out anymore with any team. So, but Justin JV, yep, I do hope that he makes the right decision, and the Giants, I wish him well. I just hope he can wrap up and not have a really slacky, sad look season. You know what I mean? I hope it's a good conclusion to a wonderful career.
Eric?
Well, I think there's very few horses in baseball now. I mean, now Verlander's certainly one of them. Scherzer is. You could probably say Garrett Cole is, and I think I guess you could put Tarek Skubal in that category. Same with Paul Skeens, but nobody's going deep in ball games anymore. You're lucky if you get 5 or 6 out of them and then done. But Verlander, Verlander was showing this year that it wasn't a victory lap. It was he was literally trying to make it work in San Francisco and try and get them back to the postseason, which unfortunately it just didn't work out. I think Verlander, would be great on most other staffs, even if, he's cheap at this point in his career. And, you can get him for nothing, put him on a contender. He can talk to younger pitchers and, I think you could still get some innings out of him. But, I think Verlander's part of a dying breed where I think eventually it'll be only Garrett Cole who's really the last of those guys.
Andy?
What can you say about 42-year-old Justin Verlander, who has played for 20 seasons in the major leagues? And Scott, we've got to highlight, he actually has pitched 3 no-hitters in his career.
Right.
He is a fierce competitor. He always wants to do his best going out there, gives it his all. And I think with the right team and the right situation, he would have had a better year this past year. But I give him kudos because a pitcher is not an easy position to play, and you're constantly throwing with your arm. And to think you've been throwing for 20 years as hard and as fast as he has, the toll that must have taken on his arm, I just can't even imagine. And he still wants to do it. Kudos for him. And if he wants to come back and, he can be a mentor and help some of these rookies and give them insights to the game and what helped him and stuff like that. So kudos to him.
All he needs is a team to give him run support. One of the best mentors I've ever seen is a guy by the name of Kenny Rogers with the Tigers, and he mentored a lot of young pitchers. And I'll tell you, Barry, you probably run across Kenny Rogers in your day, right? Kenny Rogers to me was unbelievable, wasn't he?
Well, I saw him when he was with the Rangers. So, yeah, he was being mentored by a pretty good mentor that year in Nolan Ryan. So he probably learned something from him.
Yeah, Nolan Ryan's unbelievable. Yeah, well, all right, let's go back to the World Series. This is a very unique stat that I wanted to bring up. Game 7 obviously favored the road team in the World Series. At that time, it was 21-19, 22-19. So let's talk about the fact that home field doesn't always mean anything, and it was evident when the Dodgers obviously were able to beat the Jays, but now the road team in Game 7s are 22-19. It was 21-19. What are your thoughts, Barry?
I'd still rather be at home that final game. I can tell you that. But let's face the facts. I've talked to a lot of baseball fans the last couple of weeks about the World Series, and all of them say the same thing: Toronto's supposed to win that. So that was just one of those games where the Dodgers got big breaks, and Toronto just couldn't get that final little break they needed. So. But I'd rather play that final game at home.
I don't blame you, George.
Yeah, I think one of the things when you're home in the World Series, you're so wrapped up in it, and it's hard for the home team, the ball players especially. They got relatives, they got tickets that they've got to put on hold for different people in their family. There's a lot of outside noise and commotion, I think, for a lot of the players at home. They're, badgered for this, and everybody and their brothers probably texting them, asking them, can you give me some tickets? And that's not to say that the road team has an advantage, but but I think just from that standpoint alone, there's some extra pressure on you. There's no question that Toronto was in the catbird seat. They should have won it all. They should have. They were coming home, and they didn't get the job done. And it's really, really sad because I know that franchise has been waiting a long, long time, as we know, to taste the World Series victory again. But yeah, Scott, I think it's one of those things where you should be at an advantage being home. You play for that home field advantage, and maybe some guys just let the distraction weigh on them too much. Not sure.
Eric?
I mean, you'd rather be at home in that situation. Let's be honest. I mean, Toronto was right there with LA at that point. I mean, they had them right where they wanted them. They had them right in their backyard and didn't get the job done. You generally, they came within a Will Smith spike away from winning the whole thing. It was that close. I mean, talk about being just having your heart snapped in excruciating fashion. That's one thing. That's one thing that that a lot of fans have nightmares about, and Toronto certainly will until they win another one. But you want to be at home in that spot. It's not easy playing on the road. Baseball is like one of those sports where home field advantage actually matters. Players say they don't hear it, but they do. I mean, it's hard not to. But in that situation, you want to be at home, and Toronto came within a Will Smith back heel play away from winning it all.
Candy?
You play the year to get home field advantage. You want home field advantage. You want to be at home. You want the crowd to be in it. You want the crowd to be loud. Let's face it. A lot of stadiums get really loud. A lot of stadiums, there are times you can barely hear. Others, obviously, though, in baseball, like when you're a pitcher and a catcher, you have signs to, you don't need to be listening to people, as opposed to like on the football field where you're trying to listen for calls. But you play for home field advantage. You want to play in front of your crowd. You want to win it for your crowd. And sometimes it just doesn't happen. And sometimes it's how the ball bounces and, what's going your way. Are you hot? Are you not? Who's the better pitcher on that night? We've said this time and time again. There's a reason why you play the game, because any given team can beat anybody on a given night. So you've got to bring your best, especially on Game 7. And who's more nervous? Who's got maybe the younger rookies that are more nervous, or nervous because you've never been there before. That matters too. Who's been there before and has done it and doesn't have quite the same nerves. Some people, when they are nervous, they don't perform as good.
Well, bottom line is home field is important, and in the end, they didn't get it done. Home wasn't sweet home for the Blue Jays, but that's not all bad for the Blue Jays now, because they signed Dylan Cease to a 7-year, $210 million deal. Eric, some thoughts about the contract going to the Toronto Blue Jays?
I've never been a Dylan Cease fan ever. Not even when he was in Chicago. He's played on, ever since leaving Chicago. You'd think he'd play. You think he'd be playing well on a seemingly loaded San Diego Padres team that has Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., among others. However, he's really, aside from maybe 2024, he's been mediocre at best. Chicago, sure he was good, but with San Diego, where his offense was seemingly better, he was just mediocre. I'm telling you, this has the ability to blow up in the Blue Jays' face. I mean, yes, they went to the World Series last year, but their big free agent signings of Jeff Hoffman and Anthony Santander blew up in their face, and this one could get worse and hamstrung their payroll for years to come.
George?
Well, that's quite a mouthful there, and I appreciate your comments, Mr. Katz, as usual. And I think you nailed it. I mean, yeah, you hand out a 7-year, $210 million contract, and we all know that pitchers, you don't know what you're getting. I mean, and it is unfortunate because we don't know, and because there are a lot of arm injuries and so forth and so on. I agree with you. I mean, I think basically you've really put a whole huge question mark on your future spending and your roster formation if you're the Blue Jays. They're hoping they struck gold with him, but it remains to be seen. The thing is that his record has not been stellar, and I think he's got a good attitude, and obviously he's bounced around a little bit. But the Padres didn't get the most out of him, and they should have. So, I think this is a question mark, and I think that we'll have to wait and see. But that is a huge, huge outlay. I agree.
Barry?
Ownership pays pitchers for strikeouts and hitters for home runs. And so he struck, gold. I think he's in the top 3 or 4 pitchers in strikeouts over the last 5 seasons. And, he's like a lot of the guys that have good stuff, but, you got to win. You got to win. And he hasn't shown that I guess he's had a couple seasons above 500. But what was he this year? 8-12 or 8-14? Yeah, that's a heck of a contract you can get off of that type of season. But I like his stuff. I think he's got a shot, and he might turn it around. But I think the downside is much higher than the upside with him.
Do you really? Okay. Candy?
So on September 13th, 2025, in a game against the Rockies, Cease struck out Ezekiel Tovar in the 4th inning to record his 200th strikeout of the year, marking his 5th consecutive 200 strikeout season. So obviously, and he threw a no-hitter July 25th of 2024. So obviously he has he can throw strikes, but his win-loss record is 65-58 overall. So he doesn't have a very commanding win-loss record. He has 1,231 strikeouts. I hope for Toronto's sake that he can perform to the ability that we know that we think he can, or that Toronto wants him to. And hopefully that'll help them get over the hump, because that's what they needed is pitching.
Well, the one thing Toronto has going for it, depending on what happens during free agency, is they certainly have a lot of good hitters in the lineup. We don't know what's going to happen with Bo Bichette, but they do have offensive support, something that Justin Verlander lacked. But you're going to need. But again, they're unlike you, Barry. They pay guys for strikeouts, and they're hoping that this guy can amass enough Ks to make it interesting. We'll go to one more topic before we go to our first station break, and we'll pass on our condolences to the family of Sandy Alomar Sr., who died in mid-October. He was born in 1943, former MLB player and coach. Barry, obviously, Sandy Alomar Sr. meant a lot to the game. What are your thoughts about Sandy?
Well, he's part of the of the bloodlines of Major League Baseball. He's got 2 sons in big leagues. We're in the big leagues, and one a Hall of Famer, and the other one a very good catcher and coach now. So he's one of those guys that his bloodline and those kids will probably have kids that'll get to the big leagues. So
right,
he was a good ambassador for the game, and I'm sorry to hear that he passed away.
Yeah, George.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it, Barry. We talked about the bloodlines, and we know that means so much in baseball, going back to the DiMaggio boys and all the way to the present time, and Cruz's and Alomar and his 3 children. They had 3 kids, and Sandy Jr. and Roberto were the 2 sons. And yeah, it's tough to say goodbye to anybody. I mean, this man really, his whole life has been baseball, and obviously together with his wife Maria and the 3 children. I mean, the bonding there between dad and sons is just enormous and tremendous for that family. And to come up and make your way all the way up to the major leagues is a huge achievement. And he represented himself well as a player and as a coach and manager and all the things that he did. And 81 sounds like it's old, but really it's not nowadays. And, it was sad saying goodbye to him October 13th. And, he'll be missed not only by his family, but lifers in baseball. And, people such as yourself, Barry, that have been around the game for such a long, long time in different circles. Yeah, just a loss. It is a big loss.
Eric.
I think that he's one of the more known players in the game today. Obviously, his son Roberto's a Hall of Famer, and his son Sandy Jr. I think is overdue to be a big league manager, in my opinion. And I think it's tough to say goodbye, but he had a nice long Major League Baseball career, both as a player and coach, and it's really a shame to see him go. But he has no doubt given this game a lot.
Candy.
Senior made his Major League debut September 15th, 1964 for the Milwaukee Braves. He last played September 30th, 1978 for the Texas Rangers. He also coached. After retiring, he became a manager both in his homeland and in the minor leagues. So he coached, and he even coached both of his sons for a while. He coached in the majors for the Chicago Cubs, the Colorado Rockies, and the San Diego Padres. He actually was a switch hitter, for those of you that don't know that, and he threw right-handed. A great baseball player, and kudos to him to pass down his legacy and teach his sons, and then look what kind of careers they had. I mean, that's just great.
Well, Sandy Alomar Sr., rest in peace. Baseball's a family game. It's obvious. All right, we'll go to our first station break. Go ahead, Candy.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. And the foreword is written by another panelist, Mr. George Eichhorn. The book talks about Scott's 40-plus years in the media business and how it has evolved and changed. Anybody that knows someone that wants to get into the media business, this is an excellent gift idea. The holidays are coming up. Go get a copy for anybody you know that might want this book to get into the media. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a plethora of great content, so go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. If you want to advertise, or if you want to sponsor a show, or if you want to be a guest on a show or have topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. But most importantly, if you see that red subscribe button,
Candy. I think she's frozen up. Hit the red subscribe button. Feel free to go ahead. Go ahead, Candy.
And then click it, like us, share us, and then last but not least, turn on your notifications so you're notified anytime and every time we go live. You don't want to miss. Back to you, Scott.
All right, time to go to our feature topic of the night. Why would we talk about Savanna Bananas baseball? Why not? Give you a good reason why. Number one, they sold out 19 pro stadiums in the last year alone. I talk about the Harlem Globetrotters of basketball, the Savannah Bananas. Barry, did you think if you ever played for the Savannah Bananas, how much different the game would have been for you? I mean, let's face it, you're an old school guy who knows how to coach it with the Savannah Bananas. It's a good, interesting topic to talk about during December. After all, welcome back Home Alone and that series and all these crazy ones. So why not throw Savannah Bananas? What do you think, Barry, about the Savannah Bananas?
I think the guy that runs the operation had a great marketing deal. I initially did not like it because it's sort of a mockery of the game, but it's a great entertainment. Fans love it. Fans are involved. There's a time limit on it. There's a lot of things that they've done. It'll be, it's one thing to be able to have 19 or 20 openings and sell out because of the novelty. It'll be interesting this year. I think this year they're going to have a league of Savannah banana baseball. It'll be interesting to see how well they can keep the fannies in the seats over the course of 120 or 30 games. But look, I give all kudos to the guy. And look, it's also great for these players that couldn't play at the major league level, couldn't play at the pro level. And they're able to go out there and have a good time, and the fans have a good time. I am all for it. In fact, I even told my son that's something he and I should look at to get a team and put it in that league with them. So yeah, I'm for it. I'm not against it. I mean, it's certainly, but the way we're starting to play Major League Baseball, we begin to look a little more like Savannah banana baseball. So we're not far off.
Barry, I haven't seen you laugh like this about a topic until I got you on this one. Your laugh is contagious, yeah. But the reality is, if you sold out 19 pro stadiums, can you imagine how many more they're going to sell out? That just blows me away. That's why I threw it in there tonight.
The owner of that operation is getting rich. That's no question. Yeah. They're putting 80,000 people in some of these football stadiums, so people definitely like it, and everybody I talk to about it, they love it. So it'll be interesting to see how the whole concept goes long term.
Yeah, great stuff, Barry. All right, George.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I think it's great. I can't wait to see it. They're finally getting a date in Detroit. The Tigers announced that I think late in this previous season that they were going to come here. I'm not sure yet if the date's been settled, but I'm sure it'll sell out. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing it too. I follow the Harlem Globetrotters. I mean, as kids when we were growing up, we'd see them on Wide World of Sports on ABC, and we'd also see them around the world. They took their act, and Meadowlark Lemon and all the guys, and that was a great shtick, and I really enjoyed that. I saw them in person too several times. But the Savannah Bananas, I mean, I like the way what you said, Barry, like they're making a mockery of the normal game that we're used to, obviously, that we grew up on. But I think it's all fun, and it attracts a different audience as well. I think it's fun. I love it. I can't wait to see them.
Yeah, I once saw the Harlem Globetrotters on my birthday at the old Olympia Stadium. My dad took myself and a family. It was unbelievable to watch. And I look forward to do it. The guy who's doing the entertainment Savannah Bananas used to do it for the Daytona Tortugas, and he got that gig. So more power to him.
Wow.
Eric?
I think, it's great for people who like it. It's different. It's, the crowd, they get the crowd involved, and they certainly a different way of playing baseball, and it's great. I just think it's great entertainment all around. Jesse Cole has clearly worked hard to make it what it is. I mean, let's be honest. The guy built it up all by himself. So, as far as him getting rich, though, he deserves every dollar for the fact that he seemingly sells out everything that every stadium he plays in, to the point where people have to become waitlisted because they can't get a ticket because there's just so much interest in surrounding it.
Andy?
So they actually started in a regular league. And then they decided to break out once it became real popular. In 2016, the Bananas ended their inaugural season as the first seed in the CPL West Division, earning home field advantage for the first two games of the playoffs. In game one, they won, and then two, they won as well. So they have a championship. In 2018, the team created the alternative banana ball rule set and played its first intra-squad exhibition game using the format. They've changed now. Obviously, they've added people. In 2023, Jocelyn Allo became the first woman to play for the Bananas, getting an at-bat in one game. And then in 2024, the team announced that Aloe had become the first female member of the Bananas and signed a 1-month contract. As of 2023, now I realize that was 2 years ago, the team has over 6 million followers on TikTok, more than any MLB team. And in 2025, they had more than 10.5 million followers on TikTok, more than MLB's official account. Obviously, they've done a world tour. They've played all over. In 2025, they played games in 40 different cities, including 3 NFL stadiums and 17 MLB stadiums. Their first NFL game was at Raymond James Stadium here in Tampa, Florida, where they played in front of a sold-out 65,000. On April 26th, the Bananas and the Party Animals played a game in front of 81,000 people at Clemson University's Memorial Stadium. In August, they signed Kelsey Whitmore, one of the highest-profile professional women baseball players.
Great stuff, Candy.
Scott, let me just add this one thing that makes it could get very interesting. You know, they had a draft this year, and the first player picked in the draft was Jackie Bradley Jr. So you got a big league guy who's still, you know, got capabilities, who's going to that league. Now, if they're able to pay people, the marginal guys, they may be able to get some marginal guys to go play in that league. It could get interesting.
Interesting. All right, Barry, we appreciate the information. I'm telling you, this journalism thing isn't so bad for you, is it, Barry? I like when you go ahead and throw those little nuggets. It's doing good. We got ourselves a rising star in the journalism. Of course, your managerial stuff was great. What you've done outside of baseball is even better. But now we got him. Welcome to the journalism field, Barry. Great stuff, Jackie Bradley Jr.
I'll leave the journalism to you, journalist.
All right, thanks, Barry. Well, and I'll leave all the expertise to you because I know you got plenty of it anyways. Well, we're going to go from the Bananas to Trey Turner, who was the first Philly in 67 years to win the National League batting title since Richie Ashburn in 1958. His 304 average is also the lowest batting average to win the title in NL history. Trey Turner, Barry, 304. That was enough to get it done.
Well, he's one of your natives from Florida. He played at North Carolina State, so I got to see him early on in his career here in North Carolina. I mean, obviously, he's a very accomplished player. I think the embarrassing thing for Major League Baseball is I think he was the only guy hit 300 in the league this year. Might have been one other guy hit 300 on the nose. I can't remember, but they're going to have to address that somehow. I know pitching is different because you got to see 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pitchers in a game nowadays. But that's 304 is not a real good average to be winning the batting title with.
George.
Yeah, he's got a great future ahead of him, no question about it. You know, he's only 32, and he's done a really good job, obviously, in his professional career. 3-time All-Star and 2-time NL batting champion as well. And I've always liked him. I think he's a good player. He's definitely somebody that you want on your side. And the Phillies, they had their chances again this year. They just have not been able to cross over that goal line, as the saying goes in another sport. But certainly Trey Turner has been a great help and a great athlete. Not to mention, his previous stops in Washington and with the LA Dodgers. But I think that basically he's one of the drawing cards. If you want to go see a team, you want to go see a winner, boy, you watch him and he'll show you.
Eric?
I mean, he's a terrific player. There's a reason the Phillies gave him that long contract, and he's proven to be, he really balances out the lineup well. He can steal, and he can, he's a very good contact hitter. I mean, if he hits one to the corner, it's going to be three bases for sure. But he's a good player. I mean, obviously batting average though in baseball has become discarded, if you will. And I wish it would be, what it was back when I was growing up, is like when you'd have multiple leaders batting in the 300s and trying to win the title. Now it's pretty much become an afterthought because no one really hits for average anymore.
Right. Interesting points, Eric. Great stuff. Candy.
In 2021, he hit for the cycle a third time, tying MLB's record for career cycles. And he also had 100 career home runs that year. A couple of the things that he's done as in the Phillies is in August 18th of 2025, he recorded his 1500th career hit when he hit a 3-run home run in the third inning. He became the 671st person in Major League Baseball to reach that milestone, joining 23 other active players, including his teammates Bryce Harper and Nick Castellanos. So he's done, and he ended 2023 with 30 stolen bases without being caught, which is an achievement that set a new record for most steals without being thrown out throughout a single season. So he's got speed and he can hit. He's a good player.
Yeah, he sure is. Well, more power to him. 304 got a batting title. You can't take batting titles away no matter what happened. 304. So no, more power to him. Nick Castellanos, we talk about him a little bit. He got a contract that's simply not tradable. Otherwise, I think he'd be gone by now. But we'll have more information after the baseball winter meetings. So it's interesting how everyone brought him up. So, all right, Barry. Yeah, let's talk about the Rockies. They're rehiring interim manager Warren Schaefer. The Rockies went 36 up, 86 down under his managing since May 11th. The franchise worst record of 43-119. They were the last team without a manager. It's really a tough job when you think about if you're a manager to covet it. And former Tigers manager Jim Leyland was a one and done up in Colorado. So Warren Schaefer, was he the only one that wanted to take the job, or what? I mean, this is a job that probably nobody wanted.
When I was managing the minor leagues, we had a guy I had known from the Chicago Cubs who managed in the minor leagues probably 20 or 25 years, named Walt Dixon. And Walt told me something who I was feeling pretty good about my abilities as a manager. And he told me one time, he said, look, let me explain how managing works. When you got the horses, you win. And when you got the mules, you lose. They got a lot of mules, and they ain't going to win for a long time unless they get some more horses.
Great line. I love it. That's good. I hope we get a short out of that one, Candy, because we got to make sure, if not create one. That was a good one, Barry. I can't keep a straight face out of that one. I think, Barry, you had me a couple times not keep a straight face on this show.
That's good.
It's great. Don't worry. I'll make sure I set you up pretty well the next couple of weeks and then into 26 with some of this stuff as you continue to get more wraps. Great stuff, Barry. All right, George. How do you top Barry's last one about the mules and the horses?
Oh, I can't really top that one, man. Oh, the Rockies, they're suffering. They've been suffering for so many seasons now. And, they promoted Schaefer and, I tell you what, the guy, it takes a lot of gumption, boy. It's a tough situation there. Even 122 games he had this year, he only won 36 as their skipper, coming in, of course, after they fired the last guy there back in May. I give him credit. He's very young at it. Not a whole lot of experience, but he's been in the Rockies organization as a coach, and he's been a manager, of course, in the minor leagues, which helps. And I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see, but they do need the horses. They've got a severe lack of talent on that roster, and the Rockies really they haven't been a name or a team to reckon with for many, many, many years.
Eric.
I mean, we're seeing more and more nowadays where managers and executives aren't just looking at the job as 1 of 30. They're actually looking at situations. That's why you're seeing some of these top job searches for like president of baseball operations, general managers and the like extend out longer because guys are prioritizing job security over being the head honcho in charge. It's why we saw before the Red Sox eventually hired Craig Breslow, they were having trouble finding somebody because they that general manager can't hire his own guy. They have people in that front office that probably predate Theo Epstein. And, because you can't hire your own people. Nowadays, with the Rockies, you're not going to, it's just a hard job. It's an organization that's stuck both figuratively and literally in the dinosaur age of baseball. They don't have analytics, which would be extremely helpful when it comes to pitchers and, who can potentially pitch at that level of altitude. And, no free agent wants to go there, especially pitchers. So they have to develop their own, which also has some growing pains there. And, they just, the outside of Coors Field, though, their hitters historically have not been good away from that ballpark. Right. So it's an organization that's a complete mess. Warren Schaefer was already there. So essentially they didn't even interview him. They essentially said, here, you can take over the club, I guess, and go at it. But, this is an organization that needs modernization, and it's going to take a while.
Candy?
Last year they did not have a good season. Yeah. I mean, the record, his managerial record is 36-86. So the only place to go is up. I mean, so hopefully he can do it. He's going to need obviously better complement of players in order to do that. He's been around that organization. I mean, he was drafted in the 38th round of the 2007 draft by the Rockies. So he played in minor league baseball for the Rockies organization for 6 seasons. And after he retired, he remained in the Rockies organization as a coach. So it's what he knows. So hopefully he can turn the ship around and have some success.
Yeah, hopefully. The only one that obviously thankless job, good luck. That's all I can tell you. Good luck. Because when you got mules and you don't have anything horses, you don't have anything in between, Warren, good luck. That's all I can tell you. The Red Sox are reportedly acquiring Sonny Gray in a trade with the St. Louis Cardinals. Eric, what are your thoughts about this?
They need a number 2 pitcher right behind Garrett Crochet. And at this point in his career, Sonny Gray's a number 3 on a great day. He really only, with the St. Louis Cardinals, he really was only mediocre at best. And the Cardinals are essentially paying the Red Sox to take him, which generally those deals almost never work out, or at the very most they're a mixed bag. But Sonny Gray, he's at this point he's in his mid, I think he's 36. So he's starting to approach retirement. He hasn't pitched well in the American League East during his career, where he's again been mediocre, and that's the division he's going to be in to compete. And aside from that year in that 2023 year in Minnesota, he's just mediocre, and he's better off as a 3rd or 4th starter, and the Red Sox shouldn't be banking on him to be the number 2 starter when when he couldn't really pitch well at the top of the rotation with the Cardinals. And they're just I think it's the wrong move. I mean, sure, he's a veteran arm, but he's more or less a 3 or a 4 at this point in his career.
George.
Yeah, Sonny Gray. Well, again, we're pitching starved. So many of our teams are pitching starved, as we know, and they need some pitching help. Obviously, the Red Sox do, and that's why they went out and made this deal. What do they say? His 4-seam fastball from 90 to 95. A slider. He's been a decent pitcher, not always effective, obviously, and you could tell by his record. But yeah, they're a 3-time All-Star. But yeah, and you're right, Katsy. That's the big one. It was with Minnesota in 2023, his best year. I wish him well, but I think that it is going to be a wait and see, because if they expect him to get 15 wins or even close to that, that's a bit of a stretch for me too as well.
Harry?
He's 36 years old, so that's a problem. And he's not a big guy; he's a little guy. So, but he can spin the ball. He can, he throws a good breaking ball. And they're looking for that lightning in the bottle. Hope to get a year out of him. I just don't like the makeup of that Red Sox team. It just doesn't seem like, the teams that they've had in the past that could actually be real contenders. So, and they let Giolito go. So they're just short on pitching. So I don't know. They got one good guy at the top of the roster there, and then the rest of them are back to the mule days.
It should
Andy,
be.
go ahead.
So okay, so for St. Louis in 2023, he signed a 3-year contract for $75 million. The deal also included a no trade clause option for up until 2027. On June 27th of 2025, Gray pitched a Maddox, throwing only 89 pitches in a complete game shutout versus the Cleveland Guardians with 11 strikeouts, no walks, and only 1 hit allowed. After the season, he indicated that he was willing to waive his no-trade clause to play for a contending team. In comes the Boston Red Sox. So it'll be interesting to see if he can get back to his old self and, lower that ERA and pitch well for Boston. It remains to be seen. Sometimes what you need is a change of scenery.
Well, all I'll say about him, good luck lowering that ERA at Fenway Park. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. It should be noted too. He's given up 46 home runs the past 2 seasons while pitching primarily in pitcher friendly ballparks in the National League Central. I assure you that the rest of the American League East is going to look forward to feasting on him, particularly at Fenway Park, where guys will bang it off the monster all the time.
Well, Eric, I'll say this and returning to you. Thanks for obviously supporting my claim, Fenway Park. All right, 3 more topics to get to tonight, one of which we're going to go back in history. How about this? For a lot of us old people who can appreciate it. But back on July 1st, 1973, a guy by the name of Luis Aparicio steals his 500th bag with the Boston Red Sox. Obviously, Aparicio's stolen base is the highest total in the American League since Eddie Collins retired in 1930. I get away with a topic, Barry, with somebody like Eric. This kid may be 30 years old, but he's got the mindset of who knows what. Barry, your thoughts about Luis Aparicio?
Hall of Famer, so he was a great player. Played, I guess they won a championship at Chicago, I believe, with him on the ball club. So, right. Never got to see him play. It was before my time, but I heard a lot of good things about him, especially from the kids from Venezuela. And they looked up to him greatly. He was from everything I understand, a real gentleman too. And that's a good thing.
So I've heard. Yeah, I'd like to bring a couple of these history things up, Barry, because a lot of baseball we all know is all predicated on history. Lewis came up for us. George?
Yeah, Louis Aparicio. I saw him a couple times. I was very young at the time when he played for the Orioles and the White Sox and the Red Sox. I really think that this man was just a great, great asset for the game. 13-time All-Star. That you're in rarefied air when you start talking about being an All-Star for 13 times. And the way he would go about stealing those bases, they gave pitchers fits. Oh my God, fits and more fits. And the Tigers certainly at that time could not stop his running and his stealing of bases. A Baseball Hall of Fame back in 1984. Well, very, very deserving man. I'm glad that you brought him up, Scott, because he is one of the great players from the yesteryear when we had a smaller league and we had a lot of outstanding runners and base stealers back in those days too.
Eric?
Louis, I know of him just being from the Chicago area. Him and Nellie Fox formed one of the best double play combinations in baseball. His number is retired by the White Sox. He was part of the famous Go-Go White Sox during that time too. He's also famous for prolonging the curse of the Bambino. And George and Scott probably remember this, was when he was rounding the bag, he fell over and Carl Yastrzemski got tagged out, which cost the Red Sox a chance at the playoffs. It happened around the time where Scott's hair was very long and probably brown. But yes, Hall of Famer for sure, 13-time All-Star. That guy could hit, and he could hit them all over the place, and he had tremendous speed. He's a very deserving Hall of Famer, but in Boston though, he's best remembered though for when he tripped rounding third base, and Carl Yastrzemski got tagged out, costing the Red Sox in 1972 for a shot at the playoffs. It was against the Tigers, no less, too.
Katie?
Well, you realize, Mr. Eric, who he actually stole that base, his 500th stolen base was on. You know?
No, I don't.
Oh, gosh.
Milwaukee Brewers.
I see.
His historic stolen base came in the 6th inning of the first game of a doubleheader against the Brewers at Fenway Park. His 2-out single plated Orlando Cepeda for the Red Sox. Then Aparicio stole second base off pitcher Jim Colbon and catcher Ellie Rodriguez. He was 2 for 4 at the plate in that opener, and he played the entire second game as well. He has some amazing. He retired with a record 2,581 games played at shortstop, a standard he would hold until fellow Venezuelan Omar Vizquez passed him in 2008. He never played a position other than shortstop in the big leagues, and he also retired with records for most double plays by a shortstop and most assists by a shortstop. He still holds the big league record for most consecutive seasons, leading the leagues in stolen bases, 9 from 1956 to 64. Wow. Yes. He retired with 506 steals, 2,677 hits, 1,335 runs scored. He amassed 13 All-Star Game selections, won 9 Gold Glove awards, and was named the 1956 AL Rookie of the Year. He was elected to the Hall of Fame back in 1984.
Bottom line is, a heck of a player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Handing stats more than backed it up. All right, we'll go back in history again. This time we have a no-hitter / perfect game on July 28th, 1991. Dennis Martinez throws a perfect game. He shuts down the Dodgers and leads the Expos to a 2-0 win at Dodger Stadium. Thoughts about Dennis Martinez, Bear?
Well, Martinez had good stuff. He was a good breaking ball guy. He threw a lot of high fastballs, and he had a rebound of his career with the Expos. He started off with the Orioles, I believe, and I think I saw him actually. I think I hit against him with the Orioles. My recollection. Yeah. My brains are getting a little old, but I remember him, and then he had a little fall off, but he had a recurrence there in Montreal.
Okay, George.
Yeah, that was a very special. Anytime you could throw a perfect game, oh my God, talk about special. Yeah, 9 innings, no hits, no runs, of course, no walks either, and he had 5 strikeouts in that game. It was at, I believe it was at Dodger Stadium. That was a road game for him and the Expos. And Dennis Martinez, I always thought highly of him. I mean, he was colorful a little bit, and he certainly had a wonderful, wonderful game. But listen, look at some of these batters on his team back then. It was Larry Walker, Tim Wallach, Ivan Calderon, Dave Martinez, Marquise Grissom, and Delano DeShields, and those were his teammates in that game. And I'm sure everybody just was totally convinced that this is not going to happen, because I tell you what, no hitters are tough enough, but to throw a perfect game is unbelievable. And by the way, for you trivia buffs, I'll tell you this: Larry Poncino was the home plate umpire that night. That's all I'm going to say.
George, you know how to try to hashtag Larry Poncino? Do you know anything about hashtagging?
Oh,
exactly. Yeah, okay. Learn how to do that. That may be your homework should you ever come back on the show, to Google Larry Poncino, because I got news for you. I don't know how many people know. Of course, Candy can always research the guy, but because she researches everything. All right, Eric, some thoughts about the perfect game.
I mean, Dennis Martinez was one of the better pitchers during the '70s with the Orioles. He also helped them win the World Series in 1979, and then kind of unfortunately fell on some hard times later a little bit later on in Baltimore before having a resurgence in Montreal. I mean, it's there's only 24 of these that have been thrown, and they only happen every so often. But the fact that his name is on the list, it's pretty good. Also, he's a very accomplished pitcher by in his own right.
Candy.
What to say? He was the first Latin American born pitcher to pitch a perfect game. He struck out 5 batters through 96 pitches, 66 of them for strikes. He was actually the first Nicaraguan to play in the majors as well. I actually remember seeing him play, seeing him pitch. So he was a good pitcher. Yeah, I think that's. I mean, if you look at his career, anytime a pitcher throws a no-hitter, they're good and they have good stuff, because that is rare. So kudos to him for doing that.
Yeah. Well, I had the no-hitter, Candy. The bottom line is he threw a perfect game, too. Those are even fewer. All you have to really do when you think of Dennis Martinez and the Expos in totality, it's a shame that the 1994 strike killed baseball in Montreal. It really is. We'll talk about that later on, but Dennis Martinez is a heck of a pitcher, that's for sure. Final topic of the night, and a really good one. Shohei Ohtani is going to play for Team Japan in the 2026 World Baseball Classic. Barry, thoughts about the Shohei man representing Japan yet again?
Well, I think it's natural for him to go back there, and I think it's good to see him compete against the American teams. Hopefully, we'll field a good team. I think the biggest moment in that World Championship Classic, I can't remember what they exactly call it, was him pitching against Trout. And throwing a slider, 3-2 slider, getting him out, strike him out in the ball game. So that was a great moment. I think and Japan will be tough. Let's face it, the Dodgers don't win the World Series without their Japanese players. So I think the Japanese league and their star players are kind of have come into their own now.
Right. Being a catcher like you are, and I was one, but not at the major leagues like you imagine catching a guy like Shohei Ohtani, Barry?
Well, yeah, but I mean, catching the guys that throw hard, and guys that throw breaking balls. It doesn't that part doesn't really change. I mean, the challenging part about catching is catching a knuckleballer. The rest of them are easy.
Now, how do you think you would have communicated with the language barrier, or do you just put the fingers out there and they ought to figure it out as a universal language?
I don't know that there is a language barrier with him. From what I understand, when he's with his players, he speaks English, and when he gets on TV, I guess he doesn't want to make any mistakes with the language. So I don't know that there's a big barrier with him. I think he's smart enough that he's learned to speak English.
Good point. I like that, Barry. Great stuff. Okay, George.
Well, yeah, to me it was a no-brainer. He's such a demand. He's the #1 baseball player in the world, and it would have been a shame if he would have bypassed the World Baseball Classic in 2026. That's going to be a great set of games. I'm telling you. Of course, his division is more of the Asia division. I think they're doing games, aren't they, over there first in Tokyo or wherever before they come to the United States for the next several rounds. But he's just unbelievable. It should be so much fun watching him and playing in that World Baseball Classic. Can't wait.
Eric.
I mean, it's no brainer that he's back there. I mean, he's the best player. He's arguably the best player in the world. He's at least up there. And you gotta. He's almost like you gotta have him in there. I mean, you're talking about showcasing the best talents, and Shohei Ohtani is certainly one. And you just got to put him in there.
Lone Depot Park doesn't sell up for the Marlins, but one thing I'll tell you, one of my colleague Gabriel Garcia says, you know what, when it comes to World Baseball Classic, that's another animal. I'm happy to see Shohei play. You always know that Japan's going to win it a lot of years because they have an awful lot of great talent for sure. Lonely Park, Miami Marlins will win because they get to sell some tickets and draw some revenue into that ballpark. Katie, you have the final word on this topic.
So, in response to what George was saying, San Juan, Puerto Rico will host Pool A. Houston, Texas, Minute Maid Park or Dakin Park will host Pool B. Tokyo, Japan, the Tokyo Dome will host Pool C. Shohei Ohtani plays in Pool C. So, yes, he will start in Tokyo, Japan. Now, if they advance, Lone Depot Park here in Miami, Florida will host Pool D and the semifinals and the championship game. Houston will also host some quarterfinal games. So they get quarterfinals. Miami gets the semifinals and the championship game. So Shohei will at least start in Tokyo. Question is, will he make it to Miami? Remains to be seen. And the classic starts, I believe it's March 5th, 2026.
Okay, Katie, Shohei Ohtani, your thoughts?
Hey, it's going to be great for him to start out in his home country. Like that to him has got to be great. And his country's going to go nuts because let's face it, wherever he goes, we've seen an uptick in all kinds of media that want to cover him, and they come from all over, especially Tokyo and Japan, to cover him. So here they'll be able to stay at home and cover him, and that'll be a treat for people that live in Japan.
Well, Katie and I got a taste of what it was like out in Arizona when Tim Mead, obviously, with the Angels for sure. So the Japanese people travel. Go ahead, Eric.
I was going to say, too, the reason why Japan's so good every year in the World Baseball Classic is because they actually play baseball.
Oh, there we go. That's great stuff. Well, I'll tell you, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Great show tonight with this group. Look forward to having this group back. There'll be 2 more shows left in December. We'll take a break over the holidays, and then we'll pick it up after the first of the year. After the first of the year, you can start looking at more and more Hall of Fame mentions about players and all the veterans and all these other committees putting people in. So those are the things we have to look forward to. We'll have 2 more good episodes, and then next week, but the week after, we'll have 2. Will be the last one. And then we'll begin to pick it up after that. So baseball winter meeting is coming up. Great job by this group, and look forward to continuing some of the offseason stuff and sprinkle some history as well. So with that said, that does wrap it up the show, but not doesn't totally wrap it up. Eric, let everybody know how they get a hold of you.
You can follow me on my Twitter account at Sports Team News and check out my blog at BellyOffSports.com where I'm covering all things Milwaukee Brewers. And you think there's any other team that's getting criticized on there that I don't like, I probably don't like them.
There you go, Barry. He likes horses, but not mules too. Okay. All right, George.
Yeah, you can find me in the pages of the South Florida Tribune under the contributors section, and been covering sports for over 45 years here in Metro Detroit for the Detroit Monitor newspaper. You can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com and on X Twitter at SanGSports99.
All right, we'll go to my partner, Barry Foote, my battery mate. Barry, go ahead.
You can find me here on Monday nights at 8 o'clock. I'll be here.
There you go. A battery mate, only known the guy since, 84? Is that all it's been, Barry? It was a long time.
It's been a while. You know, yeah. even in the South, that looks like 40 some years. So
yeah, it does.
A long time.
Barry's one of my favorite people, everybody. We get to hang out every Monday night. I appreciate you too, more than you'll ever know. All right, Katie, one last station break.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40-plus years in the industry and how it has evolved. If you know anybody that wants to get into the industry, this book is for them. Get it as a gift. George Eichhorn, another panelist, wrote the foreword. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there's a plethora of great content. So go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to advertise or you want to sponsor a show or all of our shows, or if you want to be a guest on any of our shows or have some topic ideas you'd like us to cover, if you don't come in the chat room, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Last but not least, there's a red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, and if you see it, that means you have not yet subscribed to us. What are you waiting for? Just do it! Click it, like us, share us with all your friends and family and anyone you think that would like to hear what we have to say. And then turn on your notifications so you're notified every time we go live. Monday nights is baseball night. Tuesday nights is football night. Wednesday nights on Sports Exchange, you never know what Scott's got up his bag of tricks on that show, so you have to tune in to find out. Thursday nights, he does, you never know. You got to watch, because sometimes it's sports wrap, and that's when we'll be talking a lot of hockey. Sometimes he has no limits. He can do Motor City Mad Mouse Show, where he interviews one-on-one guests. But then also on our YouTube channel, there's press conferences from some of the latest football games. We've done Miami Hurricanes. We've done some FAU Owls. We did a USF Bulls. Go check out the media availabilities we had with them and all those on our channel. And then Thursday nights, if you like to listen to my voice, come to the country club. Fire up. You never know what we're going to be talking about, but give us a watch. Enjoy. Back to you, Scott.
And by the way, this Thursday night, Sports Wrap continues. Mike Santos will be in the house. Looking forward to having him as well. We'll talk Thursday night hockey, Monday night baseball. Barry and I, Eric, Candy, George, and others as well. Warren Brewster has made some stuff, and Trent Clark. So meanwhile, that does it for this edition. 108th Inches Baseball Talk. Glad we could talk more baseball. Look forward to doing it again. So meanwhile, on behalf of Eric Katz, Candy Blake, George Eichhorn, and Barry, my battery mate Foot. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us. I definitely, one thing I'll take away is I definitely know the difference between horses and mules, and Barry certainly made sure that he definitely drove that message home. So I'll be curious to see what the response will be from all you horse and mule fans out there. I also discovered that Barry is a lot more of a broadcaster than I imagined, because he's getting better with every show, and I'm just glad he's on my team. That's all I can say. So with that said, that does it for us tonight. We will tomorrow night. It'll be we'll have Inside the Pick-Ten, a lot of football news tomorrow, and of course Wednesday night there'll be some football as well. I'll have a lot, so stay with us on the network. So meanwhile, on behalf of Eric, Candy, George, and Barry, my name is Scott Morganroth. Thank you for joining us. See you next Monday night at 8:00 p.m. Eastern Time. Good night and have a great week, everybody. Bye now.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.